Spring is in the air and all these deciduous plants and trees are starting to wake up and sprout new buds, but not if BC timber sales can help it. See, it was recently announced that the government organization has made plans, with no public comment period mind you, to spray nearly the entire lower mainland with dangerous chemicals as part of a 5-year pest management plan. And if that doesn't make you mad, it should, because in this chemical mix, one of the biggest ones is glyphosate, also known by the common store name of Roundup, which you might recognize from numerous court cases and studies showing its link to cancer and other health effects in humans. See, glyphosate is an herbicide that destroys the leaves of vegetation so that these plants or trees can no longer photosynthesize and grow, yet only specific types of leaves. See, conifer trees with their hardy waxy needles are resistant to the chemical, whereas deciduous trees and plants with softer, more fragile leaves are the ones more affected. And the chemical definitely has very limited uses in controlled restoration efforts against invasive species, sure, but when we look into the details of the so-called pest management plan, something really jarring sticks out. Species like red alder, cottonwood, salmonberry, thimbleberry, red elderberry, devil's club, bigleaf maple, vine maple, Douglas maple, salal, brackenfern, rhododendron, false azalea, huckleberry, and many more are listed as these targeted pests here, yet all of these species are native plants that are intricate parts of these forest ecosystems throughout Cascadia, essentially killing everything that grows except for conifer trees. But now why would BC timber sales do something like that? I mean, aren't they the ones in charge of managing our forests? Well, the answer is really quite simple. See, they allow forests to be clear cut to the ground where young conifer saplings like western red cedar or Douglas fir are then planted, and these young conifer trees are short and small. So by midsummer, they can often get shaded out by the fast-growing deciduous plants and trees that are taking advantage of all that sunlight in those massive disturbance clearings created by logging, resulting in slower initial growth for those conifer trees. Now, these native plants are then labeled to be pests to commercial crops of softwood trees, so they are sprayed and destroyed in the spring as their buds develop in order to ensure faster growth for all these replanted seedlings. Yet, all these deciduous trees are active parts of these ecosystems, and numerous studies have shown that in the long term, their presence actually improves the growth rate, health, and quality of timbers in the forest, but BC timber sales isn't concerned with the long term, and these forests are looked at solely as crops of trees that can be maximized for economic gain over a 70-year timeline, not a functioning, healthy, diverse forest ecosystem. I'll say that again. These trees are not managed as forests. They are monoculture crops managed for short-term gain at the expense of all other stakeholders here. Spraying herbicides to destroy all these deciduous trees and plants has numerous impacts on our ecosystems and our society. Glyphosate not only has been found to have numerous links to cancer in humans, but its presence can remain in vegetation for up to 12 years after use, and it trickles down into our waterways to have untold effects on our already struggling salmon populations. The loss of deciduous trees and plants that help fix nitrogen into our soils to allow for healthy conifers to grow in the first place only secures the fact that these glyphosate treatments will need to be followed up with numerous synthetic fertilizer treatments to help these trees grow. And these fertilizers are created from a combination of mining and fossil fuels like natural gas, something that we should probably be using less of during this era of climate change. The lack of food resources for wildlife such as birds, small mammals, and insects will not only harm their populations and have trickle-down effects throughout the food chain, but lead to increasing issues of bears encroaching into human-populated areas to find enough food to survive, as the berries from these plants can make up to 90% of their diet. Additionally, the lack of berries in these traditional foraging lands of numerous indigenous nations has huge cultural ramifications and impacts on their sovereignty that violate the commitments of UNDRIP, which Canada has recently signed on to. While it might sound absolutely crazy and extreme, unfortunately this is fairly common. It's been happening for decades all around not only British Columbia, but all throughout Cascadia down through Washington and Oregon in an attempt to grow conifer trees faster while polluting and destroying these ecosystems that we all rely on. I mean, after all, these logging practices are sustainable, right? These actions are occurring on public lands by companies pursuing their own private fiscal benefit, and we, the public, deserve to have a say on what goes on here, as the health of these forests impacts our health and our futures. You can write an email to BC Timber Sales with the information below to demand that they include a public comment period here at the absolute bare minimum, and that we need to ban the use of glyphosate in this manner entirely. After all, not only are these berries absolutely delicious and a personal favorite of mine, but all these species are crucial parts to the health of our forest ecosystem. So let's stop the spray today and ensure a healthy, vibrant future for us all.